How ancient education models shaped the modern university. Education did not begin with universities. It did not begin with lecture halls, degrees, or formal institutions. It began much earlier, in a time when knowledge was not freely given, but carefully controlled. 2. Understand the modern university. You have to go back to a time when learning was not about personal growth, but about power. In the earliest civilizations, education was never designed for everyone. It was selective, intentional, and deeply connected to authority. In ancient Egypt, for example, learning was reserved for a small class of individuals, particularly scribes and priests. These were not just educated people in the modern sense. They were the keepers of knowledge, the interpreters of religion, the administrators of law, and the recorders of history. To be educated was to hold a position of influence. Writing itself was not just a skill. It was a form of control. Those who could write could preserve memory, define truth, and shape the structure of society. Knowledge, in this sense, was not neutral. It was power, and it was protected. As human societies expanded and became more complex, the need for organization gave rise to something new. In Mesopotamia, what we might recognize as the first formal schools began to appear. These were known as tablet houses, and they were designed to train individuals in writing, accounting, and administration. Students did not learn for the sake of curiosity. They learned because society needed them to perform specific roles. Education became structured, repetitive, and disciplined. There were lessons, exercises, and expectations. What mattered was not just what you knew, but how well you could fit into a system that required order and efficiency. This marked an important shift. Education was no longer just about access to knowledge. It was about shaping individuals to serve a function. But something changed in ancient Greece. Education began to move beyond function and entered the realm of thought. It was no longer enough to simply learn skills or memorize information. There emerged a new idea that to be educated meant to think deeply, to question, and to seek understanding. Figures like Socrates challenged the idea that knowledge should be accepted without examination. He asked questions, often uncomfortable ones, forcing people to confront their own assumptions. His method was not about giving answers, but about awakening thought. This approach transformed education from passive learning into active inquiry. Students, such as Plato, created the academy, a space to study philosophy and engage in scientific exploration, setting the foundation for structured intellectual inquiry. Later, Aristotle organized disciplines like logic, ethics, science, and politics, and contributed to modern education by creating categories and laying the groundwork for structured inquiry. The Romans adapted this tradition, focusing on practical application, leadership, and empire management. Rhetoric, public reasoning, law, and administration were emphasized. Education became a tool for political influence. Invasions from Africa and the Middle East also influenced intellectual activity in various regions. In West Africa, Timbuktu was renowned for its intellectual achievements, including the establishment of the University of Al Quaraouiyine, which showcased learning in multiple fields. Meanwhile, in the Islamic world, Baghdad's House of Wisdom facilitated translation, research, and discovery, while scholars gathered texts from different regions and built upon them. Knowledge was preserved and expanded through international collaboration. Ultimately, Medieval universities in Europe continued the tradition of formal educational systems, including degrees, standardized curricula, and institutional authority. Education served as a means for fulfilling particular roles, while also fostering independent thinking. In summary, education has a long and complex history, transcending mere preparation for societal roles. Today, it holds a unique role in shaping individual identity and encouraging intellectual discovery. By understanding the historical roots of education, we can better appreciate its intended purpose and true nature.